Well, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Brad Bollinger. I'm the publisher of the North Bay Business Journal. And on behalf of our parent company, Sonoma Media Investments, which owns the Press Democrat, Sonoma Index Tribune, Petaluma Argus Courier, Sonoma Magazine, Spirited, and all the associated websites, we want to welcome you here this morning to this is our 10th annual CFO Recognition Awards. We're really pleased to be here. Just as a preface, this is our 8th virtual event. In March, we quickly realized that we weren't going to be able to hold live events. And here we are in August, almost September, and it's still impossible, but this is the best alternative to bringing people together. We thought as a news organization, we needed to continue to get information out into the community and play our role as a media partner, and then also to keep the awards going because it's leadership, and you're going to see a lot of it that's going to take us out of this tunnel that we're in here at the moment. So we started this a decade ago, just with the concept of shining a light on the people within our companies. I like to say the CEO is the driver of the company and the CFO is the navigator, and you know what happens when you don't have a good navigator. Bad things can happen. You get lost. So that's especially true now as we're in this exceptional crisis. It has broad and deep impacts on our economy and on our business models. Just completely changed overnight, kind of turned on their heads. And it's just accelerating some trends like e-commerce and remote work, and it is pushing back other traditional models in travel, for instance, and hospitality, to name just two. And so no matter what your organization is on the spectrum, the present challenges and the path forward require innovation, vision, and action. And our recipients here today were nominated by the Business Journal. I want to thank everyone that submitted a nomination. It was happening just as the pandemic was starting to shut everything down. And the winners were selected by the journal editorial staff. And what an incredible group of professionals we have this year. They're varied and with fun backgrounds. There are 19 of them. Firms, some of the most household names, most iconic companies in the North Bay, such as Clover and Trinchero, to organizations in finance, several nonprofits, and education as well. Some wisdom to listen for when we get to our awards. Listen for that. There's a great deal of compassion in what they have to say. We asked each of them to record a 20-second video. And they talk about, right now you need to do a lot of listening. And then what you do now in your company will have or organization will have a lasting impact going into the future. And I want to thank Eric Lewis, the CEO of Wineshipping, for being here with us this morning. I'll introduce him in a second. Thanks to Chris Thompson and the whole Comerica organization, Mike Silva, for getting Eric here this morning. I think you're going to learn a great deal about him. I told Eric, after having talked to him, I think I'm starting to understand millennials. So we wouldn't be here this morning without our partners who make it possible for us to offer this free to attendees. So please join me in thanking our underwriters for our founding underwriter, BPM. Thank you so much, and Comerica Bank, and our presenting sponsor, Redwood Credit Union, and our winner sponsor, Dickinson, Peatman, and Fogarty. So if you know someone at that organization, give them a little wave. Might send them a thank you note, an email to acknowledge their support for this event here today, virtual as it is. So again, I mentioned I wanted to thank Eric Lewis, who is the CEO of Wineshipping, for being here with us this morning. The way this will flow is that we'll have Eric give his address here at the beginning, and then we'll move right into the awards. And in the awards, we will have different presenters. And again, we've asked our recipients to submit a video with a message to answer the question, what would you tell the members of your profession right now? So let's get to Eric. Eric is the CEO of Wineshipping and the related direct-to-consumer companies. he was appointed to take over the leadership of the Napa-based wine fulfillment company in January, and draws on his experience as a leader getting consumer wishes fulfilled. Wineshipping and 24/7 Enterprises, which owns Pack and Ship Direct, and Vingo in April merged under Wineshipping's parent company, DTC Logistics, and the combination created one of the largest DTC companies in the US. And you can just guess right now how they're doing, because everything has moved to the direct model. Lewis previously served as Senior Vice President of Global Operations at the Mattress to Your Doorstep startup called Casper. And prior to that, he served as head of regional operations for Google's West Coast division of Google Express. And he spent 3 years at Amazon as general manager for North America fulfillment. He's also held key management and operations roles at Black & Decker and Dana Corporation. So please welcome Eric Lewis. Eric, come on.
Hi, and thank you, Brad.
Thank you.
I appreciate the nice, warm introduction.
Thank you.
Really flattered to be here participating in this. It's my understanding that this is the best of the best in when it comes to finance in the North Bay, and so I feel genuinely thankful to be able to speak with you. Especially this year. It's been, as Brad mentioned, this has been such a crazy year, and I hope that all of you and that your families and that your businesses have seen minimal impact due to the fires, the riots, the pandemic, the pestilence of politicians. Keeping in mind that there's still a lot of a year to go. So if you haven't been impacted so far, there's still time for that to happen. I'm kidding, of course. And for those of you that may have run into trouble, I'm truly sorry for that. For the past 4 years, before I started at Wineshipping, I was working in Manhattan and Europe, San Francisco and China with Casper, and I was flying around a lot. And as you can imagine, how lucky I feel to have come to Wineshipping in January this year. So, I had, the pandemic when the world literally started to come to an end. First China shut down, then the EU shut down, and New York shut down, the airplanes shut down. In the meantime, I was at Morimoto and Perry Lang's and Kohl's and visiting our customers' vineyards and drinking lots of wine. So I considered myself, all of this going on, to be very lucky, to be honest with you. So finally, in March, when the pandemic does come to California, our CFO, who happens to be on, David Joyce, and we were working really hard to close this particular acquisition that we had in the works. Wineshipping at the time mainly provided service for about 1,000 wineries on the West Coast. So mainly here in Sonoma and Napa Valley, but also Central Coast and the Pacific Northwest. The target acquisition company, on the other hand, had about 80% of the e-commerce company market share. So they mainly provided service for companies like Naked and Drinks and others. We'd scheduled to close April 6th, which was about 2 weeks or so into the California shutdown. And so we were nervous about that, as we should be. All other M&A was grinding to a halt, as like most of the rest of the world was grinding to a halt. And somehow in all of this, thanks to the local banks here and some nationally, we were able to get this done. And thank you, David, as well. So, and right after close, as you guessed it, we saw a 300% surge in e-commerce wine sales in April and May, and it was all that we could do to keep up. We understood the importance of keeping up to be able to provide, as much as we could, a good sales channel for the wineries and for the e-commerce companies, but it was difficult. We made it, and since that time, sales have continued to stay, really solid for us. They've dropped a little bit in July, but still, triple digits over where we thought they would be. And while COVID's had a negative impact on many businesses, and that's very unfortunate, we've really been able to not only thrive, but accelerate our growth during this time period. So Brad talked a little bit about me, and I'll provide just a little bit more. The first 15 years of my career I spent in manufacturing in the consumer goods space with a variety of companies like Dana Corporation and Black & Decker, and a variety of engineering and operations roles. And in the last decade, I've been building different companies' capabilities in the direct-to-consumer e-commerce parts of their business, starting, of course, with Amazon, which was already well established, then moving to Google, Casper, and now Wineshipping. What I find is no matter what role I've been in the position to either lead, something that was starting up from scratch or something that was in a very high growth phase. And, you know, it's, you know, had the opportunity to be pretty successful in those, and hopefully that'll be the case here. So finally, luckily, after all of this, I made it to Napa, to the beautiful wine country, and to Wineshipping. After being here, I realized two things almost immediately. And the first is that one, I'd been drinking really bad wine. And the second is that I should have come here a long time ago. So you guys can go ahead and go to the next slide. Okay, so you know, switch into the topic, which is let's talk about the trends in DTC. And I'm going to ask a couple of rhetorical questions here. The first one being, have your online purchases been increasing over the last, you know, 5 to 10 years? And the second one being, is there something that you weren't purchasing online pre-COVID-19 that you now are purchasing online? And if you're like me, the answer to the first question is just, it's yes. I mean, that's been, most of us have been buying more and more things online. And if the answer to the second question is yes, then you're more than likely a millennial. As I've got 3 millennials at home, and you know, I don't quite understand them fully yet either, but I'm working on it. But everything they purchase is online. The telephone is the store to them. And, you know, so anyway, that's my look at this as what I've learned over the last 10 years. So I'm gonna talk about really a couple of mega trends that have been happening for the past 20 years in direct to consumer. The first one has been this general migration that we're all aware of like products and services moving online, investment dollars coming in, innovation, you know, mobile, we're all getting busier. We have this access to this great amount of information. So, you know, it's natural for shopping to have followed its course. And 20 years is a long time, right? So if we look at some examples, if we go back 20 years ago, about 10% of books were sold online. Believe it or not, 5% of movie tickets and events were sold online 20 years ago, and less than 1% of things like, you know, toys and videos and CDs and flowers, health and beauty, beverages, those types of things. All of these categories today are at or above 80% of purchases online. And again, 20 years is a long time, right? So to illustrate how fast things can change though, only 6 years ago, 4% of the furniture market was sold online. This is a really big category, and that most people at the time, even Jeff Bezos would have said, you know, that it's not able to shift online because one, it's too big, and two, the delivery costs are too high. But when we look at last year's numbers, online furniture sales represented close to 25% of the market in dollars in the US. And in something like mattresses, it was 45% in unit volume. So that's in 6 years, $40 billion, almost 25% of the US furniture market moved online. But, you know, who would have thought that? The other interesting piece is it wasn't the incumbents like Tempur-Pedic, IKEA, or Ashley that either drove the shift or really benefited from the shift. And you can research this and look at their sales over this same period. It was companies like Wayfair, Overstock, and Amazon. Wayfair and Amazon, as an example, have 60% of the online furniture sales, while companies like Casper, Purple, Tuft & Needle, companies we never heard of, you know, 6 years ago, along with Amazon, have 70% of the online mattress market. So if we jump to another category like large retail, Walmart, Costco, Target, we look at a company like Costco. 10 years ago, if you visited Costco.com, you couldn't buy anything. You could only find their store locations. You could find out the store hours. You could possibly apply for a job online, things like that. But today, growing at 20% annually, the online sales for Costco represent about 10% of their overall sales, 10% of their business. It's 20% for some categories at Costco. That's $15 billion. Walmart's online sales last year were $40 billion. So when we look at alcohol, merging these together, Costco sold almost $5 billion in alcohol last year, about half of that being wine. And unfortunately for us, none of those wine or alcohol sales were online, you know, due to regulatory compliance barriers, at least not yet. The second mega trend is a maturing of the millennial population. As many of you know, it's a very big generation. There's 78 million millennials, which is about 6 million less than the baby boomers, who were previously the largest, and when I talked to them, arguably the most fun generation, and about twice as many as Generation X, which is my generation. And like the baby boomers, every product category that the millennials start to buy or consume based upon their stage in life literally explodes in demand. It doesn't matter if it's a product or a service. The difference between when that happens with the millennials and the baby boomers is that 66% of what millennials buy, they buy online. So when Amazon started adding toys, videos, and CDs in 1998 to books, the millennials were aged 1 to 14 years old. Certainly not a coincidence for Jeff Bezos, who later moved into electronics and then home goods. And in 2012, he started opening up warehouses that could handle furniture and appliances and became one of the largest furniture and appliance sellers in the US. Coincidentally, this is around the same time the oldest millennials were in their mid-20s, late 20s, and they started moving out and they started buying furniture. And that trend continues today. I can go to the next slide. So we find ourselves at a very interesting inflection point when it comes to wine and spirits, especially when it comes to shopping delivery. One, and they may argue against this, but boomers, I believe, are drinking less. Gen X is not a very big market, and millennials are starting to drink wine. The oldest millennials being about 37. Wine sales in the US last year, as many of you know on this call, were $70 billion, and only 7% of that was direct to consumer. You know, while this doubles every 5 years, it's still a relatively small number by comparison to other product categories. And, you know, how I feel about this industry, I think that DTC is where the growth is for the next decade. I think millennials are going to drive a lot of this. And millennials already are drinking a lot of wine. You know, to note, they're buying it from different companies. They're buying it from digitally native companies that attracted the investment dollars 5 or 6 years ago. These companies built high-performing teams that have a deep understanding of, you know, how to do acquisition marketing, how to do brand building. And while they may not be experts in the craft yet, and they're not what we think of as traditional winemakers, you know, they are experts in the DTC space, and they're really capturing this share. Just to provide a data point, about the top 10 wine e-commerce companies are growing at greater than 20% a year, and they represent a greater portion of online sales than all of the wineries combined. You can go to the next slide. So what are we doing here at Wineshipping? So what we've been doing is being 100% focused on our customers and how we can enable their growth and their success. We stay informed on what's happening within the industry and trends in direct to consumer. And, you know, we're rapidly advancing our capabilities to keep pace with the changes. It's not always easy, but that's our goal and our target and what we try to do. The other piece is that we're really trying to build the scale and capability to enable and facilitate the growth of the wine and spirits direct to consumer sales as it grows from 7% to what I believe is going to be 25 to 30% in the next 5 years. So we invest in the talent to be able to do that, the technology, both from a software perspective and an automation perspective within our sites. And, you know, we're going to continue to work on operational capabilities, data analytics, providing data to the industry. And, you know, we're going to continue to just grow and facilitate this change that's occurring. Today, in as much with the acquisition, we've got a national footprint. It's about 2.2 million square feet, temperature controlled warehouses. They're strategically located so that we can deliver 2 days to the nation, the entire nation ground, and overnight into the major metro areas where about 50 to 60% of wine and spirits are sold. We've got a strong technical element. It's important that our customers are able to see their inventory, to be able to access sales data, to be able to change orders when they need to, and be able to see delivery information real time for their customers so that they can have great customer service. And, you know, we plan on continuing to grow and with our scale, invest in innovation, take cost out that we can pass on the industry, and stay at the forefront of changes in wine and spirits in the DTC space. So this is inclusive of new and emerging marketplaces that you see, which are dual platforms that sell wine and spirits, being able to schedule a delivery, change a delivery, any changes in compliance that come our way, you know, we'll be able to keep up with that. So I feel, as I'm sure David does as well, that we're in an excellent position to fulfill directly to, you know, say Costco's customers when they're finally able to sell spirits online, which one day I believe will happen. And next slide. So I know that we've got good representation of some of the industry online, and so I'm going to, based upon my experience and what I've seen, some research, what can you do to lift online sales for your business? The internet and online sales are not in their infancy anymore. It's gotten more complex, and at the same time, customers have gotten more savvy, when it comes to online shopping. So, brand continues to go a long way. So building your brand awareness, which is what we've always worked on and done, it really helps establish the trust with your customers. You have to get traffic to your site. Many times this is an expensive numbers game. So once you have a customer and you have their email, the retention of that customer, the creating a frictionless experience for that customer become more and more important. And, I recommend this, and it's always surprising when I go do it, to know what your actual experience online is. How do you look? What does the process feel like when you go through it to check out? Encourage your employees, new and old employees, to use it, and then get the feedback from them and make changes. Do testing, find out what those test results are on your website. Be willing to invest in this because you're going to learn a lot and you're going to change things and you're going to get better at it. I can't overemphasize the importance of email lists and using them in your day-to-day marketing. Have reasons to email your clients. Be more, if it fits your brand, be more promotion oriented, launch new products, reach out to them in thoughtful ways, be in front of them. But that email list is important. Continue to grow it. It gives you direct access to the people that you've already established a relationship with that are interested in your product. For new customers, meeting them where they're at in social media. Facebook is a great place. Interesting, Casper built the brand in the early days 100% through out-of-home marketing on New York subway trains. I would still hear people say, oh, you worked at Casper. I saw these great, cool, interesting ads while I was on the subway in New York. I think that probably didn't work the last several months, but that's how they started building the company in the beginning. So the other piece is on your customer service, really having excellent customer service so that when someone does call, they get an answer, you're able to resolve their issue quickly. And that goes a long way. Having them to comment on what they're how you were able to deliver to them is important. Making it super easy to do things like chat or email you. Having broader hours are important. Shipping, if you're direct to consumer, Amazon set the stage here that shipping should be free. We all know shipping's not free, but finding a way to offer free shipping to your customers and absorb that in other parts of your business, taking up some of it in price, taking some out in cost, working on some way to subsidize that is also important. The last one I think for wineries is some consideration of marketplaces, which I believe are really starting to open up and explode. And I think that's the next phase of e-commerce, is that you'll be able to buy most products at most places. As long as it's not erosive to your brand. I don't know that many marketplaces are accretive to a brand if you've built that equity, but keeping in mind that the more places people can have an eye on your product, the more product you're likely going to sell. So these are only a few. I'm sure there's a lot more that are out there. And for me personally, I believe that we're not only believe that we're on the precipice of a big breakout with direct to consumer wine and spirits. I really think that it's underway and that it started a couple of years ago. And by the numbers that I see, I think that it's accelerating. With COVID, it brought a lot of new people into the marketplace that weren't necessarily buying wine and spirits online. My wife would be one of them. She bought her wine, at the store 100% of the time. But when COVID-19 hit and you couldn't go in stores, they were closed, or you didn't want to go in stores, she had to resort to buying wine online. And what she did, she realized something that, buying online does for all of us. It buys you something that money generally can't buy, and that's time. You don't have to go to the store. You've got more time to do things. So I also think finally in this space that this activity and this growth is going to attract more investment into the space, which is good for us. More investment will accelerate growth. It will accelerate innovation in the space. It will accelerate knowledge of what it is that we're doing here in Napa and Sonoma. And, fundamentally, while all these negative things are happening in 2020, we'll look back at it and say, wow, what a crazy year this was. I personally believe it's a good time for us in the space. And with that, thank you for listening and giving me the opportunity. Cheers.
Thank you, Eric. Thanks so much for being with us this morning. So Eric, turn your video back on, and we'll. I just want to ask you a question or two. So once COVID is over, what happens to the wine DTC sales? Do they fall off, go back to what they were, or is this a semi-permanent change for this growth?
I think, and we've seen some of this already, and David and I had mapped it out a few times, and, we saw what was a very large peak in April and May as consumers, some of them had no other option but to go online and to buy, and which they did. Many of them will stay, and that's what we're finding. There's some stickiness there. As stores open back up and people were like, wow, I've got to get out and go into the store, and there's the wine, and they're able to go to restaurants. A lot of wine is consumed in restaurants as well. So we expected that there would be a shift downward post this peak. Nobody knew how long the peak would last, but the peak was April and May, started to taper in June. And so we've seen a drop off of about, 15% or something like that. But then the trend that we were already seeing before continues. The slope of the line and the growth continues upwards. So I think we've seen a real shift, and now we're, the slope of the line may accelerate a little bit, but it's not going to go down. So
yeah. So if you're an on-premise winery, you got the tasting room, and that was your attraction, and people would come and then they walk out with a case. How should they adjust to this new environment?
I think some of the things I said really work, capturing the emails and the contact information of clients and potential clients is really important, being able to contact them. I've been able to go to a few tastings myself, the outdoor tastings. When you do get people in sight, making it easy for them to purchase, from their phone, like, maybe being able to scan a barcode right there at the table that takes them to a place, page that they can buy from, doing those types of things, those activities. Anytime you get an opportunity to get them into your ecosystem, I think that it becomes incredibly important. So I've seen the virtual tastings. I personally haven't participated in one. I think that's very cool. But that's another way that I've seen some of the wineries, trying to keep things moving and going. So the other examples that I gave a moment ago are also important. If to be, stable in this area and growing and capitalize on it, hiring, if you have the ability to hire or outsource some things like email marketing or digital marketing, so that you really deeply learn this part of the business that's, it's new to all of us, right? So.
Well, listen, once again, thank you for being with us. I know you mentioned you had the fires in the Santa Cruz Mountains have impacted you a little bit, but you came out the other side okay. And I thank you for still agreeing to be with us. And good luck with everything. And thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thanks to everybody. Yeah, good luck.
Okay, take care. Well, thank you once again to Eric. So now we'll begin the awards portion of our program, and it's my pleasure to be able to present the first 3 awards. And the first one happens to be in the wine space, and it is Chris Cordano, who is the Chief Financial Officer for Beckstoffer Vineyards in Rutherford. And he was asked in his interview what's changed with COVID, and he says, I do find myself spending a lot more time considering the future challenges facing our customers. Asked what the recent success in his company was, they have continued to push technology into their vineyards, data used for vineyard operations and tracking, and continuing to market specific locations for grape quality. And what advice would you give to an emerging financial person who's coming into the field? Think outside the world of finance and accounting. When you can, you will bring more value to your company. And the thing he's most proud of is going through a financial workout situation successfully. And then finally, his most admired business person happens to be Bill Gates, who of course predicted something like the pandemic back in 2015. If you have a chance to look at his TED Talk, it's quite frightening, actually, when you see it. He predicted it, but nobody paid attention, obviously. His favorite activities outside work were fly fishing, cycling, camping, and hiking. And as I mentioned, we invited our recipients to send us a short video. And here's Chris Cordano.
I've always tried to be patient and respectful of others. I have found throughout my career that being patient and respectful creates common ground for finding creative solutions and resolving difficult issues. More and more, I find myself thinking and looking forward. I think to myself, what is in store for us tomorrow that is the result of what is happening today?
Well, thank you, Chris, for those words of wisdom. And once again, congratulations. And our next recipient is Ann Butterfield, who is the Vice President for Finance and Operations at the Community Foundation, Sonoma County here in Santa Rosa. She has 20 years of executive leadership experience in multifaceted nonprofit organizations, including Waldorf schools and many others. And she asked what prepared me for all of that. Of course, but she, as a teen, she spent her early college years in a career in theater, including in New York. That gave you an appreciation for the world around us, I'm sure, and people as well. To date, the Community Foundation Sonoma County, how they've responded to the COVID-19 crisis. They have made nearly $4 million in grants to COVID-19 programs. Asked what changes have come because of the pandemic. For the nonprofit industry as a whole, it has had devastating financial impacts on fundraising. And while the need for their services has skyrocketed, we all know that, and we have to make sure that we continue to support our important nonprofits. Tell us about a recent success. The grants that you mentioned, $4 million, have helped organizations like the Redwood Empire Food Bank scale up to serve 3 to 4 times as many clients as usual, and have helped mental health agencies transition to offering telemedicine. This is, again, another one of those kind of permanent changes, telemedicine being one, to help their clients who are struggling in the community. And having been through recent disasters, fires and floods, the Community Foundation's Resilience Fund, and the infrastructure around our disaster ground making was important to be able to support the nonprofits today. So please join me in congratulating Ann Butterfield, who's one of our recipients here today. So proud to have you, and here's what she had to say.
Hold steady and stay the course. Your staff, and in fact all of your assets, need consistency during these uncertain times. Stay connected and show up every day with nimbleness, perspective, and kindness. And even if most of us are working from home these days, it's critical to keep your team close by, whether on Zoom or, as our sports teams are doing, with cutouts.
Wow, don't we all need to keep a sense of humor? Once again, congratulations. And our next award goes to Robert Parker, who's the Assistant Superintendent, Vice President of Administrative Services at Napa Valley College. What advice would you give to an emerging professional? Expect change at any moment. Boy, don't we know that now? Do not expect that your plan for the future will be executed without interruptions and diversions. Tell about a recent success at the college. The faculty and staff moved quickly in March to shift to online instruction and remote service delivery as a result of the shelter in place. And students were able to complete their studies, and purchasing and payroll operations continued uninterrupted. In an effort to support our students, the college provided loaner laptops as well as Wi-Fi hotspots to the students in need. How do you think your business education will change? He believes that the shift primarily online in education in the short term will permanently change the way some students and faculty view online instruction in the long term. And what would your friends and family be surprised to know about you? My dream as a child was to be a professional singer. Well, there's still time. In the community, he's the treasurer for the Arts Council of Napa Valley and board treasurer for Association of Community and Continuing Education. And congratulations to Robert Parker. Here is his video.
Hi, I'm Bob Parker from Napa Valley College. A few years back, I was teaching accounting at a university, and I used to tell my students that perhaps my favorite thing about being in accounting was that everybody needs an accountant, and you get to support the activities of many different areas, many different professions, many different industries. At this unprecedented time, probably now more than ever, people need the support that accountants can provide. You know, I truly believe in what we do here at Napa Valley College, and I know that others in the accounting profession, I've been at this for over 30 years, that they feel the same way. And so I would just say, in these unprecedented times, continue doing what you do, continue supporting the good work of your organization. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to Robert and Napa Valley College. So next, please welcome Helma Quinn, who's the Vice President of the Western Market Wine Industry Specialty Group with Comerica, to present the next awards to Elizabeth Hammond of Intervine and David Joyce of Wineshipping. Please welcome Helma.
Elizabeth Hammond is the CFO of Intervine and has been with the company since 2017. In her role, Elizabeth manages and directs all financial, accounting, and IT activities for Intervine. In 2018, Elizabeth was an instrumental player in the company's leveraged ESOP transaction and ownership buyout. Intervine is a major supplier to the airline and cruise line industry, and they are the largest alcohol beverage supplier to the largest airline in the country. With the shelter-in-place order and the virtual shutdown of the travel industry, Intervine's business has been affected significantly. Elizabeth has been working diligently to lead and stabilize the company for the near term, creating the right avenues for growth and building cash flow resilience that the company needs to get through the next several quarters. She believes that ultimately we will return to a world of growth, be that in 6, 12, or 24 months, and plans to have Intervine ready. When asked what advice she would give young emerging leaders, she said she would offer them a Jeff Bezos quote. Big things start small. The biggest oaks start from an acorn. You've got to be willing to let that acorn grow into a little sapling and then finally into a small tree. And then maybe one day it'll be a big business on its own, step by step, courageously. She would say you can't skip steps. You have to put one foot in front of the other. Things take time. And there are no shortcuts, and you want to do those steps with a passion. Elizabeth is a member of the Association of Financial Professionals, as well as Women in Finance. She is also involved with the Napa Valley Food Bank and a supporter and fundraiser for the American Cancer Society. Outside of work and community involvement, Elizabeth enjoys spending time with her sons, running, art, and poetry. And now, without further ado, it's my pleasure to present this CFO of the Year award to Elizabeth Hammond.
CFOs today need to continue to push the envelope and innovate. I think of it as our staying dangerous enough to know what to ask for and strategically smart enough to know what is possible.
Originally from Texas, David Joyce moved to wine country solely because he has a passion for wine. After some time here, he joined Wineshipping as Chief Financial Officer. Headquartered in Napa, Wineshipping provides comprehensive and cost-effective wine club fulfillment services, as well as shipping for retail wine purchases to wineries located in Central and Northern California, as well as Oregon. David spent 15 years with PwC and has a background in mergers and acquisitions. With David's support, Wineshipping was able to successfully complete an acquisition of another wine shipping company right as the pandemic hit the US. Post-acquisition, the combined companies were then bombarded with all of our panic wine shopping, which personally has been a lot. They've been able to manage the overnight increased volume while also being mindful of social distancing and CDC requirements. I just hope David has been able to enjoy some of his other hobbies like fishing, golf, tennis, and NASCAR throughout all of this. Guidance from David to others in the financial sector. First, understand why you are performing tasks and you'll get a lot more out of it if you do. And secondly, trust your instincts. With that, it is my great pleasure to present this CFO of the Year awards to David Joyce.
Well, thank you, Helma, and congratulations to Elizabeth and David. Thank you again for being with us. It's now my pleasure to present the next two awards, and the first one goes to Steve Janicelli, who's Vice President of Finance and IT at Clover, Sonoma. Steve said that he was asked, how has the pandemic changed the operating of your company? And he said, I think the main change has been in the intentionality with which we need to communicate and connect with our teams and our core workers. Thankfully, this has occurred at a time which technology makes this abundantly possible. Let's imagine doing this 20 years ago. So Steve also, he was asked about a recent success at your company, Clover. We already knew that we had a special team, a group of people working here, but this has been truly amazing to be part of. What advice would you give to emerging financial leaders? He had a whole list. I'll read some of them. It's good to learn from your own mistakes. It's better to learn from someone else's. Be confident, stay humble, never insist that you are right. That's a good one. You can be right or you can be happy. Reject completely the phrase, quote, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Yes, that'll get you into bad places. And finally, learn to ask the best question in the world. What can I do to help? How do you think your business will change in the next 5 years? This is ultimately the companies that find the right balance of in-person and remote work will have a key advantage in the labor market relative to their competitors. What is your most memorable business experience? Commuting on BART. This was his first job. He tried to go home. He had 87 binders of papers in his hands, and the train was packed, and he says, this is not for me. And of course, now he's with the great company, Clover, Sonoma. What would your friends and family be surprised to find out about you? My friends might be surprised to find out my job is more complex than counting cows, which is what I told them I do here. Steve has a great sense of humor. I've known him for years. So stress relievers, I used to include watching Giants games as a stress reliever, but the last couple of seasons have proven to be more stress inducing. Congratulations to Steve Janicelli, and really listen to his message he has here. I think it's really terrific.
I think the message right now is as much to the mirror as to the industry. With so much negativity and divisiveness and fear around us, the message is just to be different. We've been given the opportunity, or forced in some cases, to consider how we think and how we talk to one another and how we act towards one another. I'm stealing from a book title and saying, work hard and be nice. Be confident enough to be loving. We have an opportunity to really consider who we are as individuals and as companies. We don't need to shout about it or thump our chests about it. Just do it. Just work hard and be nice. Let's just see how that goes for a while.
I told you that was a great message from Steve. Once again, congratulations. Our next recipient is Rupinder Malhi, who is the CFO of Community Action Partnership in Sonoma County here in Santa Rosa. What advice would you give to a young emerging financial leader? Never compromise your integrity. Challenges provide opportunity to learn new skills. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Tell us about a community involvement, her community involvement activities. Every Sunday she teaches Punjabi to kids, which is wonderful. Her most admired business person outside the company is Steve Jobs, and his current reading, or PPP, her current reading is PPP loan forgiveness documents and how to do the keto diet. So congratulations to Rupinder. Here's what she had to tell us.
Hello, everyone. The message for my profession is never be afraid to ask any questions. The more questions you ask, more you learn, and more information you gather in order to make more informative decisions for the company. It's a win-win situation. Best of luck. Thank you.
Once again, congratulations, Rupinder. So next, I'd like, please welcome Chris Thompson, who's a Senior Vice President, Group Manager in Sacramento and the North Bay for Middle Market Lending and Wine Industry Specialty Group with Comerica. Please welcome Chris Thompson to present the next two awards to Shannon Mclaren of Frogs Leap Winery and Ditas Peterson of St. Superi Estate Vineyards and Winery. Please welcome Chris.
I am fortunate to present this award to Shannon Mclaren. I have known Shannon for many years, and she has a great reputation in the wine industry. She has worked for many notable wineries, but she is lucky enough currently to be the CFO of Frogs Leap Winery. Frogs Leap is a wonderful place to visit, but with shelter-in-place restrictions, you should take part in some of their interactive tastings. They make fantastic wines, and my personal favorite being their Sauvignon Blanc. Shannon has a big job, not only with the CFO responsibilities, but HR and IT also report to her. That seems to be the theme with CFOs nowadays, where they handle multiple groups and responsibilities. Shannon has done a tremendous job during these very difficult times. One of her most recent challenges was setting up all the employees to work remotely. Prior to COVID, most of their employees had desktop computers, and the company only had 2 VPN licenses. Shannon and team had to pivot quickly to get employees up and running. Shannon is very grateful for the entire team at Frogs Leap and so happy she gets to work with them every day. Some advice Shannon had, which I really liked, was to be authentic, bold, and fearless. Take chances and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Mistakes can be your best learning opportunities. She enjoys mountain biking, hiking, eating out with friends, shoe shopping, the sharks, travel, and sharing some yummy Frogs Leap wine. Again, it is my pleasure to present this award to Shannon Mclaren.
Hi, I'm Shannon Mclaren, CFO with Frogs Leap Winery, and I've been asked to share with you all today a message about our profession during these times. And for me right now, I'm going to say something that's not very often said by CFOs, and I certainly hope that my boss, John, is not watching today. But that is that it's not always about the bottom line. I think it's most important right now for us to share that with our employees and our shareholders so that they know what our true values are. And at the end of the day, practice the 3 W's. Wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance.
It is my pleasure to present this award to Ditas Peterson. Ditas is the CFO of St. Superi Winery. The winery produces amazing wines that continually receive high scores from the major wine publications, ranging from 90 to 96 points. The winery was awarded first place for the Luxury Packaging Award through Wine Business Monthly in 2020. As we know, a CFO wears many hats, especially during these troubled times when we have COVID, shelter in place, fires, staff working from home, significant reduction in visitors to the winery. The list really goes on and on. Ditas has shown tremendous leadership during this time, being able to handle international operations from many standpoints, such as tax, compliance, economics, politics, people and culture, HR, technologies, etc. Doing this all while the world and the business landscape is changing drastically. She has to make decisions fast, and she is grateful that she has an excellent team of people around her for support. Ditas knows that you still need to balance work and life, and she enjoys golfing, fishing, and nature. She also enjoys reading, but I'm not sure she ever gets a break from her job because she reads about accounting and tax updates. I am thrilled to present this award to Ditas Peterson. Congratulations.
What message do I have for our profession right now? Well, during times like this, we have to make a choice. Do we retreat and hide, or do we push forward and see this as an opportunity for growth and positive change? We need to be more flexible no matter what path we're on. This pandemic will give birth to new industries and new career paths, and you have an opportunity to be one of the innovators who helps forge new paths. So push forward into this challenging new world.
Well, congratulations to Shannon and Ditas. By the way, you have fans out there in the chat box. We got messages like, you're fabulous, or you're all fabulous, and particularly to Ditas today. And thank you, Chris, for making those presentations. It's now my pleasure to present the next 2 awards. The first one goes to Martha Duarte, who's the CFO of Alternative Family Services in Guerneville, or here in Santa Rosa, excuse me. AFS is a foster care and mental health agency serving San Francisco Bay Area and the greater Sacramento area. COVID-19 has and will continue to adversely impact this organization's funding, and the impact of COVID on the US economy will impact funding that is available for years to come. What advice would you give to young emerging financial leaders? Lead with your heart and work with integrity. The rest comes naturally. What was your toughest business decision? I can't think of one. She said, I usually process tough decisions in a team, sleep on it, pray, and execute. So please join me in congratulating Martha. Here's what she had to say.
Greetings. As CFOs, we need to be perceived as knowledgeable, honest, trustworthy, and with high integrity. My message to the profession is to intentionally cultivate your ethical framework, develop ethical courage, be prepared, anticipate to be challenged ethically. I highly encourage everyone to consider ethics trainings as part of your regular ongoing professional development. Thank you.
Well, congratulations, Martha. And the next award goes to Sherry Riggs, who's the COO and CFO of Dickinson, Peatman and Fogarty in Napa. What changes have come because of the pandemic in the industry you work in? Well, we definitely will go back to the office environment. We anticipate the office environment will look very different than it has in the past, whether that is because more people will work remotely, at least part-time, or other safety measures needed around getting back into the office. We're beginning to think we can't wait to do that. As you walk down to the water cooler and say hi to someone. What advice would you give to young emerging financial professionals? Don't sell yourself short, especially as a woman in the workplace. Don't be afraid to ask for what you are worth. You teach people how to treat you, and if you don't see your worth, neither will they. How do you think your business will change in the next 5 years? We'll continue to operate remotely. Historically, some managers have been reluctant to allow people to work remotely because it can be harder to manage, but we have to get used to that and get better at it. What is the decision you wish you hadn't made? After high school, I decided to take a gap that turned into a 6-year gap. And that turns out to have been a blessing later on. What is your greatest business success? The business I started, well, she was a director for a Fortune 500 company and decided to go back to school to get her MBA. The MBA program made me question her planned career push. She then executed a grad school thesis, which led her to leaving corporate America and opening her own business. And that business ultimately made a significant change in her career. After winning regional and national awards for the restaurant she founded, she also became a sommelier. She eventually sold the business to follow her passion for wine to Napa, and there she became general manager of a winery and then transitioning to Dickinson, Peatman and Fogarty. Personally, what is the biggest lesson you have taken from the events of the last few months? Appreciate others, value what they bring to your life. She is, her community involvement includes the International Wine Guild, Women for Wine Sense, and is chair of the Women for Wine Sense Financial Roundtable. Congratulations to Sherry Riggs. Next, I'd like to welcome Michelle Osborne, who's a partner at BPM, to present the next award to Kirsty Cringan from Trinchero Family Estates. Welcome, Michelle.
It is well known that companies with greater workplace diversity make better decisions, achieve better results, and outperform their competitors. Kirsty Cringan, Chief Financial Officer at Trinchero Family Estates, is the first female executive of one of the largest family-owned wine companies in the U.S. Kirsty's professional experience includes working amidst different cultures in Scotland, London, Europe, Illinois, and within business partnerships from coast to coast and throughout the world. She has a deep appreciation of how we all come from different places and how listening to others' diverse thoughts, ideas, and points of view, adjusting and learning along the way, provides value. Congratulations, friend and colleague, Kirsty Cringan.
Well, congratulations, Kirsty, and thanks so much, Michelle. Next, I want to welcome, please, Jamie Emerson-Hury, who's Assurance Senior Manager at BPM, to present the next award to Delia Diaz.
Delia is the Chief Financial Officer for Traditional Medicinals, responsible for finance, accounting, financial reporting, and IT systems. Traditional Medicinals is an independent certified B corporation and has been serving herbal teas since 1974. You may know them for their famous throat coat teas, or more recently during this pandemic, maybe even their stress ease cinnamon tea or their smooth move digestion teas. The founder has famously told me that their #1 selling tea is actually good for #2. Delia moved to Sonoma County and joined the Traditional Medicinals team in 2018 to help expand the business into a multi-product line botanical wellness company. She's a CPA and has worked with companies such as Arthur Andersen, Kraft Foods, and Mars Pet Care. She's extensive international experience and mentioned to me recently that she's actually traveled to over 50 countries. Delia believes that there's plenty of fun to be had in focusing on the fundamentals. She's always been passionate about connecting numbers to help people understand what they do, what drives value, and how best to protect it. When asked what her greatest business success was, her response was that growth and development of her team members is the most important measure of success. And she's proud to say that 9 staff members working for her over the years have gone on to be CFOs. That's pretty impressive. So join me in congratulating Delia Diaz, CFO of Traditional Medicinals.
One bit of advice I'd offer is to listen with intent, to seek to understand, not just listen to the what, but why. Why is it important to them? Why are they coming to you? When you listen more, people will share more. And the more people share, the better finance leader you become. So my bit of advice is to really listen critically and listen to seek to understand and in a caring way.
Well, congratulations, Delia. Thank you, Jamie, for making that presentation. We do have a video from Kirsty Cringan from Trinchero. Can we play that now?
Includes working amidst different cultures in Scotland, London, Europe, Illinois, and within business partnerships from coast to coast and throughout the world. She has a deep appreciation of how we all come from different places and how listening to others' diverse thoughts, ideas, and points of view, adjusting and learning along the way provides value. Congratulations, friend and colleague, Kirsty Cringan.
Hi, a message I would like to share with my fellow finance colleagues in these testing times that we are in just now is practice the skill of over-communication. Staying close with all of your internal partners as well as the financial institutions that support your business, and ensuring no surprises is key at this time that we are living in.
Well, thank you again, and congratulations, Kirsty. Thank you, Michelle. So it's my pleasure now to present the next 2 awards, starting with Robert Collins, who's the CFO for Nordby Construction, Nordby Signature Homes, and Nordby Wine Caves. Tell us about a recent success at your company and successfully implementing a wide-ranging program to keep our employees safe and subcontractors safe in these times. Nordby spent a lot of time and effort to try to be the best in this area. In fact, that's how we can keep our construction workers on the job and keep our economy moving. How do you think your business will change in the next 5 years? Automation and modular building components will drive down the cost of construction. What is your most memorable business experience helping the Nordby family through a generational change in ownership, and then assisting and bringing other partners into the Nordby companies? And his greatest business success, he believes, was helping Nordby survive the Great Recession and then thrive after 2010. What would your friends and family be surprised to know about you? I only work because my wife is an award-winning baker. Personally, what is the biggest lesson you have taken from the events of the last few months? Life can be messy. After we finished rebuilding our house in February, I thought everything was okay. And we also know that it wasn't. So please join me in welcoming and congratulating Robert Collins. Our next award goes to Sharon Rubens, who's a CPA and CFO for Yandell Truckaway in Benicia. Congratulations to her. She has her own CPA firm and contracts with other companies. Has become more green using electronic delivery of products, and this is likely to be a permanent change and better for our industry. What advice would you give to young emerging financial leaders? Listen and talk to people. Don't just sit at your desk. Numbers are good and tell you a lot, but the people are going to push the business towards success. What is her greatest business success? The controlled growth of her CPA firm from 8 people to 22 over the last 14 years. That may not sound impressive to some, but she made the decision years ago to focus on strong long-term business relationships with high integrity clients and business partners. While there is a temptation to grow under the assumption bigger is better, she purposely controlled the growth of her firm to attract and keep fabulous long-term staff and clients. What would your friends and family be surprised to find out about you? I prefer listening than talking. So please congratulate Sharon Rubens.
It's all about relationships. The numbers may get you to a certain point in your career, but the relationships will take you to the next level. Years ago, I went to lunch with a very successful business person, and I started to dive into my very detailed agenda. He stopped me and said, "Let's talk, let's eat." And I couldn't understand why he cared about my crazy schedule and my dogs and my kids and what I did over the weekend. But we talked, and it was fun. And 25 years later, we still go to lunch and have a great time. So to get yourself on a path to be successful in this business, focus on the relationships.
What great advice. Congratulations, Sharon. So next, please welcome Brett Martinez, who's the CEO of Redwood Credit Union, to present this next award. Welcome, Brett.
Hi, I'm Brett Martinez, President and CEO of Redwood Credit Union. Today, I'm proud to tell you about Ron Felder, RCU's Chief Financial and Risk Officer. Ron oversees RCU's accounting, finance, risk management, and lending operations. As you know, some of the criteria for this award include excellence in growth, finance, and leadership. Ron has more than 30 years of finance experience and has been a senior leader at RCU since 2013. When he started, the credit union was $2.3 billion in assets. With his support, we've more than doubled our asset size to $5.7 billion. Ron is focused on helping RCU maintain a strong financial position. And for the past 6 years, RCU has been ranked one of the top 5 healthiest credit unions in the nation out of 5,400. Our communities have faced numerous disasters over the past few years, including fires, floods, and now the pandemic. Ron has helped RCU expedite financial relief programs to help members impacted by loss of job or reduced income. These programs include 0% interest short-term loans, waived fees, increased credit lines, and payment deferrals. Under his guidance, RCU is the #1 credit union in the Paycheck Protection Program in California. RCU's lending team was able to process over 2,000 PPP loans through the SBA for local businesses, helping to preserve more than 9,000 jobs in the North Bay communities. Ron's calm and approachable demeanor and his clear and concise communication style helps guide our lending and finance teams through these intense deadlines in a thoughtful, organized way. And his dry sense of humor always brings levity in challenging moments. Ron lives in Marin, where he regularly represents the credit union in many community events and programs, such as Schools Rule and the Center for Volunteer and Nonprofit Leadership. Congratulations, Ron, from all of us at Redwood Credit Union.
Hi, I'm Ron Felder, Chief Financial and Risk Officer for Redwood Credit Union. I'm honored to receive this award And I want to thank Brett, RCU, and the North Bay Business Journal. During these challenging times, many people and businesses are experiencing financial challenges, but we need to remember that we're all in this together. As a community, we're strong and resilient, and we've certainly proven that we can rise above tough times. We need to have patience, be kind, and help each other out whenever we can. Together, we're going to get through this. Thank you again to the North Bay Business Journal for this recognition. Stay safe, everyone.
Well, thank you, Brett, and congratulations, Ron. I want you to know that on our chat box here, you got a congratulations from someone named Reed, which she said, "Go Dad." So congratulations again. You know, we forget that we usually gather together for this event, and we have family members and spouses and coworkers, that's part of the feeling of the event. We're missing that here, but I wanted to pass it along a little bit. People are really proud of our recipients here today. Makes us feel really good. So it's my pleasure now to present the next the final three awards. The first goes to Viola Morris, who's the Director of Finance at Lifehouse. Lifehouse launched the Home for Life Capital campaign in 2018. We wanted to renovate an office building located in San Rafael. And Lifehouse was halfway through the campaign in September of 2020. And of course, it's been challenging through this period with the pandemic. The effort has not been without its challenges, especially given the simultaneous timelines for fundraising and renovation with the COVID-19 impacts. But she looks forward to celebrating Lifehouse's new home very soon. What advice would you give to a young emerging financial professional? Be curious and remember your attitude and presence impacts your outcomes. Very good advice. Personally, what is the biggest lesson you have taken from the events of the last few months? There is so much joy to be found in the small pleasures of life. Slow down, take notice, and enjoy it. This time has also reinforced the importance of relationships and how they sustain us. Congratulations to Viola Morris.
Here we are 5 months into the shelter in place and now facing fire season and possible evacuations. I cannot help but reflect on how critical it is for our organizations to be resilient and agile. I encourage all of us to keep an eye on this concept and to continue to foster its development within our organizations, our systems, and our people.
Well, congratulations again, Viola. The next award goes to David Prince, who's Director of Finance for PEP Housing in Santa Rosa. PEP Housing is a nonprofit where they house and advocate for 700 at-risk seniors. They have had to cancel major fundraising efforts due to the COVID. They had 3 projects ready for construction and 3 additional senior apartment complexes that have had to be delayed because of the fall off in tax credit to investors and the funding. But they also did a capital campaign, but they'll be back soon, I'm sure, to finish off these projects for our seniors or at-risk seniors. What is the decision you wish you hadn't made? Be careful with what you type in emails, especially with reply all emailing. You don't really have to reply all. I think that's good advice as well. What was your toughest business decision when having to decide to terminate someone? My investment in them did not pay off. He has in his office a 2-foot-tall elephant that gets decorated every month with a new theme. I'd really like to see that elephant someday, David. And if personally, what is the biggest lesson you have taken from the events of the last few months? If you find yourself being mentally or emotionally pulled down, turn off the news and realize there is nothing new, just constant repetition of the same stuff. For 40 years, he has volunteered in teaching young people ages 7 to 18 to play brass instruments and being a surrogate father to many of the children. Currently leading the Concord Brass Band of the Salvation Army and a group of 27 individuals ranging from 14 to the eldest member is 85. Thank you so much for your work in that area and your giving heart in that area. Congratulations to David.
My name is David Prince. I work for a wonderful organization called Pet Housing. My message for our profession is stay positive. Those that we come in contact with might feed off on our optimism. And there is certainly enough negativity going around. All the best to you.
Well, congratulations, David. Our final award here today goes to Simon Haidamous, who's the Chief Financial Officer of Aperture Cellars and Devil Proof Vineyards in Healdsburg. Congratulations to Simon. What changes have come because of the pandemic? We have altered our approach to in-person tastings. For instance, we have scaled back the number of groups. We entertain while ramping up the frequency of cleaning activities. Our tasting facility was designed to be with flexible rooms that remove walls and doors, creating a seamless indoor and outdoor experience. And I believe these changes are relatively permanent as consumers look to our facilities as a welcoming and safe place to stay. How do you think your business will change? The wine industry has to adapt to the needs and preferences of the millennial and Gen Z consumers. There are so many great wines being produced in California, and we need to make sure we're telling the story that resonates with an increasingly younger buyer. What is a decision you wish you hadn't made? That would be a great conversation over a bottle of wine. He answered, the truth is, I make mistakes all the time. I think the key is always being on the right side of any integrity-related issue. Finally, what is your greatest business success? Closing and recapitalization in Aperture and leading the construction of the winery and tasting rooms. Even as an active wine consumer, I was relatively outsider to the wine industry and leveraged my prior project management experience and finance experience to deliver a world-class facility in about 2 years. And today he's receiving calls to support other wineries and projects in Sonoma County and elsewhere, Napa as well. What was your toughest business decision? I was the 20th employee at a startup that grew to 700 employees in 3 years. In 2016, we went through a significant restructuring as management had to drastically right-size the business. What would you tell your friends and family that they would be surprised about you? My life is an open book, but my friends might be surprised with my love of yacht rock music, specifically Hall & Oates. Personally, what is the biggest lesson you have taken from the events of the last few months? Be flexible. Hope is not a strategy, and you have to continually innovate and create change and action in an uncertain environment. Congratulations, Simon.
Hi, I'm Simon Haidamous, the CFO of Aperture Cellars, and my message to fellow CFOs is to stay the course. Obviously, we're living in some really uncertain times, but the same things that made us successful in the good times will get us through this rough patch. Our job really is simple. It's to plan for growth, manage expenses, all while living within our leverage and liquidity targets. I know it's challenging, but I know we can get through this.
Well, congratulations, Simon. That concludes our awards here today. I'll have to say, I went through these profiles that they all did earlier. In fact, they're going to publish, I think, this coming Monday. And, I read them, but now having gone through this today, the future's okay. We've got some incredible people in the North Bay working in our companies that can navigate this incredibly challenging time. I feel quite confident. And finally, usually what we do if at a live event, we give our recipients a round of applause. Perhaps we can do that virtually right here. I want to thank Eric Lewis for being with us today and taking Wineshipping in a great direction and enlightening us on the buying habits that people are developing now that will probably stay with us. That he would share his thoughts with us here today will help us as well. I want to thank our underwriters here today, our founding underwriter BPM and Comerica. Thank you so much again to Chris Thompson and Mike Silva for helping us secure Matt. Eric. And then finally, our presenting sponsor, Redwood Credit Union, and our winner sponsor, Dickinson, Peatman, and Fogarty. I want to thank everyone at the Business Journal for what they've done to help us keep our events going in this virtual space. And we hope to see you all soon in our community and keep our community strong. Thank you once again to everyone. What an amazing group of people. And thank you so much. Have a great weekend, everyone.